Ah, there you are. How's things, everybody? Welcome to the regular Sunday night live. Was there a program called Sunday Night Live, or was it Saturday Night Live? So, hi, Kevin. I'm reading your comments about the lost Elvis film. You were there. Ray Santilli went to the States to meet Bill Randall to find the movie, but they didn't find it. So that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that it hasn't been found. Hangwood mushrooms, whatever that means. I don't know. Do you remember Elvis Presley film Viva Las Vegas? Yes, Danny, how could I forget it? Right, a quick, just a little run through of what we're going to discuss tonight. What I've got the 1955 Lost Elvis movie that I made a YouTube podcast about. If you haven't watched that yet, you can check it out on my YouTube channel, this YouTube channel, or my podcast channel, Elvis the Ultimate Fan channel. We'll be discussing the 1968 TV special, which was shown on satellite television in the UK during the week. Also, an article from the Daily Express, John Lennon saying that the meeting with Elvis in 1965 was crap. I'd also like to know, or rather, it's not so much I'd like to know, but somebody called Sean has asked me to ask, do they know what Elvis was shouting to the band during American Trilogy, during the Aloha from Hawaii satellite special? Also, has anybody heard of a book called Letters from Elvis by Gary Lindbergh? I must admit, I'm not familiar with it at all, but a fan called Sheila asked me, did I know what it was about? And I didn't. So that's something, if anybody's got any information on that, Letters from Elvis by Gary Lindbergh. Kevin, I'm not saying it didn't exist, but Ray Santilli never found it. Oh, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I'm actually going to be, if I can, contact Ray and see what he knows about it and what he wants to say about it. Danny White, no, I don't think Elvis is still alive. Elvis died on August the 16th, 1977. Okay, John Lennon said that the Beatles were in awe of Elvis and there wasn't much talking. Right. Basically, what I read today was an article in the Daily Express saying that Chris Hutchins, the journalist, was actually there at the time. And when they went to leave, Colonel Parker shouted to John Lennon, "Don't forget to tell everybody that this meeting was brilliant." And apparently, John Lennon was supposed to have turned to Chris Hutchins and said it was crap. Now, I don't think that. I actually think that this was made up. And I'll tell you the reason why I think it's made up is because we have heard before John was assassinated, and we also hear it from Ringo and from George and everybody else, and Paul as well, that they were kind of in awe of Elvis, and they just couldn't believe when they walked in the door that there was Elvis, their idol. So I actually think that that if you do read it today in the Daily Express or anywhere else, I just think it's a made-up story. I don't think John Lennon would have said that, unless he meant the meeting was crap, but Elvis was great. So there you go. Some people do think Elvis is still alive. That's up to them. If they want to say that, that's fine. But I don't believe it for 1 second. Okay. Did anybody see my YouTube video then called Lost Elvis Movie from October 1955? I know Kevin has given his opinion on it, but I'd just like to hear if anybody else has any opinion on it. Okay. Catchy Blue says yes. Strange how there's no bloopers from his movies. Well, there would actually be bloopers from his movies, but they just haven't been released. Now, whether they've been destroyed or not, I don't know. Does anyone think if any Aloha from Hawaii backstage footage exists or rehearsals ever took place? It's so difficult to believe nothing was filmed. Well, there is on YouTube a video of the band warming up a couple of days before, and also there's a footage of Elvis's dressing room, and then also the camera leaves the dressing room and follows his route onto the stage. I actually did post it on YouTube, but it was taken down. I always felt that John Lennon came across a bit caustic. Yeah, he was. He was quite blunt and to the point. Um, so Shocking Revelations by Gary Lingberg, 14.95, saved $2.06. Yeah, but I mean, what shocking revelations were there? If anybody can tell me, is it worth getting? Is it worth getting this book? So do we? By the way, guys, somebody actually complained last week that they thought the audio was a little bit low. So just let me know if the audio is low. But my meter is showing it's okay. Has there ever been talks of Elvis doing any formal rehearsals for Aloha? Well, he arrived in Hawaii in plenty of time to do. Uh, I'm sure he did. He didn't. He didn't do. He didn't do rehearsals actually in the HIC. I think he did it in a smaller building. But there is actually photographs of Elvis in casual wear, talking to Marty Passetta, or one of the engineers anyway, on the stage. So tell us more about the 1955 movie, please. Okay, in a nutshell, in October 1955, the DJ Bill Randall asked Elvis to go while Elvis was in Cleveland doing a concert. He asked him to uh, film something called Making a Movie Short with some other artists like Pat Boone and Bill Haley and so forth. And he sang a couple of songs, and it was filmed, and it was called The Pied Piper of Cleveland. Then the next reference we have to it is when Bill Randall introduces Elvis on the Dorsey Brothers stage show in January 1956. He said, we met this fella for the first time on Making a Movie Short, and it's since then it's actually completely disappeared, and nobody seems to know where it is. There's rumors and things like that, and it's now really become the holy grail of the Elvis world. So if anybody, if you're still interested in finding out more, you can listen to my podcast. You can listen to the YouTube, and it's all in there. Okay. Let's have a look at this. We've got the shocking revelation is it claims that Elvis was molested and raped. Total garbage. Yeah, if that's what's in the book, then I'm not going to be interested really in watching or reading something like that. Kevin, Kevin, you were telling me you brought Scotty Moore, DJ Fontana, and the Jordanaires to the UK, where they had their very first UK tour with Johnny Earl. Paul McCartney came to see and met them all. It was a great memory to see this. I bet it was. I bet it was. I'm still trying to kind of line up something with Johnny, but I've got a few guests lined up for the podcast, so it might be a while. Bill Randall said something like, "We've seen him here before on Making a Movie Short." Yeah, well, he said, "We saw this fellow for the first time on Making a Movie Short." That was the actual words he said. Yeah, Pablo, it's very, very likely that Elvis did actually record Tiger Man at Sun. But again, the reels are either lost, or it was erased, or it's hiding in somebody's drawer somewhere. Because if you listen to one of my podcasts, it's called Sundays, and there's two parts: Sundays Part 1 and Sundays Part 2, and I go through all the recordings that Elvis did in Sun, released and unreleased. I haven't asked Kathy Westmoreland because, as far as I know, she's not very well. So I'll have to kind of put that on a back burner. I find it hard to believe that if this 1955 short is in existence, it has not been sold for a huge sum. Well, it was sold for a huge sum, but since then, it seems to have gone missing. I also cover Cat Girl Blue. I also cover the Rainmaker in the podcast. Sandro, I sub your channel a long time and you don't read all the comments here. What the heck? I can only read so many because there's so many coming in thick and fast. I've actually slowed down the chat this week because it was going too quickly last week and I couldn't keep up with it. So Sandro, it's nothing personal. If I miss them, it's more by error than judgment. I don't know if there's any clips featuring the other artists in the Pied Piper clips. Purple Sparkly Unicorn. Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. There's about 9 or 10 stills from his screen test with the Rainmaker, and I've actually posted those stills on the YouTube episode about it. I don't think Ed Opper's still alive, no. How many members of the band are alive today? Probably half a dozen or more, I would think. I'm just trying to think. There's obviously Ronnie Tutt, there's James Burton, Glenn Harden. You know, they're still doing the Elvis in concert. Of course, they're probably not doing it at the moment because of the COVID. But do you think the CBS special from '77 will be released on DVD? Well, it has been unofficially. You can get them. I don't think it'll be officially released for a long time. EPE have come out and said that they don't wish to release it. Do you think the fans of the Beatles will hate Elvis Presley because of John Lennon's comment? No, I don't think so. No. Who watched the 1968 special on Sky Arts during the week? Did anybody watch it? Because if they did, like me, you'll notice that they left out quite a bit. They edited out the whole "It Hurts Me" sequence. And I think it was simply to make way for ads. So I wasn't pleased to see that, to be honest. People who like Elvis mostly like the Beatles. Yeah, they do. They go hand in hand. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Lenny, that's Sky for you. Yeah, you could be right. To me, it just didn't make sense to leave that out. They could have left something else out. Maybe the dance intro before the gospel numbers. But to cut from Elvis karate chopping Big Boss Man to the next song, Trouble, I think it was, or Little Egypt. I think it could have even been Little Egypt. Just didn't make sense. Just broke it all up. I don't know when the hologram of Elvis will come out. It's probably unlikely at the moment because the Baz Luhrmann film seems to be taking precedence over everything else. I would love to think, Jake, I would love to think that the Elvis on tour box set will be released in 2022. It'll be sacrilege if it's not. And I believe that if they don't do it in 2022, it'll be a big opportunity missed. However, there's so much licensing and different cross company problems and everything that it's so difficult to say. Uh, when I first saw the '68 special on TV in the late '70s, it didn't have "It Hurts Me" sequence. Maybe that's the version they showed then, but still doesn't make sense to leave it out. Irene Beatty, I am Elvis mad. Join the club. Join the club. What part was Elvis auditioning for in The Rainmaker? I can't remember exactly what he was auditioning for. Was it? Was he not an idiot sort of boy, but I think he was supposed to be a simpleton sort of character. I believe. That's as far as I remember. Steve, why Elvis didn't went to court because he was with Priscilla, age 14. Well, he was with her. There's no law that says you can't be with a 14-year-old girl, as far as I'm aware. You know, um, he was with her. He was friends with her. So there's no evidence to say that any misdoing was going on. So I think we'll just gloss over that because if you want to go down that avenue, he was friends with Priscilla, and he had teenage fans as well. So well, Cat Girl Blue says because Elvis did not molest anyone. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. There's no evidence there was any misdemeanors taken place. Elvis is not alive in Bob Joyce. Bob Joyce has come out and said many, many, many times that he wishes people would stop saying that he is Elvis Presley because he is not Elvis Presley. I'm not even sure if we will see outtakes from the movies. There was kind of little things like that in This Is Elvis, but they weren't really outtakes. They were just kind of little snippets of funny bits going on. No, Jake, I don't think that Elvis Presley Enterprises will release Elvis in concert anytime soon. It's available out there anyway, if you know where to look. And there was a very, very good set called Elvis the Final Curtain. I'm not sure if it's available anymore. It was very expensive. Can we please stop the Bob Joyce nonsense, says Cat Girl Blue. I've heard Bob Joyce sing, and he's not got a bad voice, but it's not Elvis Presley's voice. So, does anybody know what Elvis was shouting at the band during American Trilogy? I think he was just shouting encouragement and things like that as they were building to a crescendo before the "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah" ending. No, I don't know when the Elvis statue on the bridge in Bad Nauheim will be ready and put up. Hopefully soon. Spar Guy just had a video where he went to Bob Joyce and the nonsense was put to rest. Well, what more can I say? Why did it take Spar Guy to do that? I've listened to some of it, Kevin. Yes, some of Johnny Earl's with Scotty Moore on Mystery Train. No, I haven't seen the Elvis Cafe in Israel. Sounds very interesting, though. Yeah, he was just getting passionate about the song, I believe, when he was singing American Trilogy. I would imagine it says, "Can you please send a link to the Spire Guy video?" I would imagine if you just go on to YouTube and go to Spire Guy's latest video, you'll find it. But as I say, I don't know why it took Spire Guy to do it, because to be honest, anybody would know that Bob Joyce is not Elvis. Um, Jerry Lee Lewis did go to Graceland with a gun and was shouting that he wanted to see Elvis. I think he was inebriated as well, and Elvis watched it all on CCTV. Jamie Elvis fan Freeman, he was definitely in the moment during during American Trilogy. He was, in fact, it was one of the highlights of the Aloha special, without a doubt, along with "What Now, My Love," I'll remember you. I have heard the Elvis poem, "The Robin" from 1973 in Linda's house. It's very funny. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to discuss Bob Joyce anymore. As far as I'm concerned, we have to let sleeping dogs lie. Um, Cat Girl Blue says that video won't put anything else. It won't put anything to rest because he's not on camera. Wouldn't let Spy Guy film him. Anyone who believes that story will still believe it. I don't know. I don't know why he wouldn't let Spy Guy film him. I don't actually watch Spy Guy's videos very often. The Robin poem should have been on "Having Fun with Elvis" on stage, but I don't think Colonel Parker would have liked the swear words. He liked to keep Elvis's reputation squeaky clean. Yeah, you have to let Elvis rest and keep his memory going. It's unfair on Elvis to say that somebody else still living is him. It's unfair. What's my thought on Elvis impersonators? Impersonators. Well, I just they have a job to do. I don't listen or watch them really, but if if they're respectful and they're keeping Elvis's name alive, then that's okay. Uh, I prefer some parts of the Aloha from Hawaii rehearsal and some from the actual concert itself. Cat Girl Blue says, "I loved Ray Connolly. Brilliant interview." Yes, if anybody hasn't heard that interview, either that's on YouTube and podcast channel. And I was interviewing Ray Connolly when he met Elvis in his hotel suite in 1969, just after opening. Andy Kaufman was one of the first Elvis impersonators. In the YouTube channel, The Music Man live stream said that Elvis Presley can go to hell and David Bowie was a much better singer than Elvis Presley. David Bowie was a huge Elvis fan, so I don't think David would have been very happy about that. What do I think about people saying that Priscilla used Elvis and the women used Elvis for his money? I don't know. It's hard to say. There's also a rumor going around it seems to have reared its ugly head again this week that Priscilla was pregnant when they got married. But I believe that she was. I believe that Lisa was a honeymoon baby. 9 months to the day, so 1st of May to the 1st of February. If Lisa was 2 weeks premature, then even so, that would easily work as her being conceived during the honeymoon. Are you aware that Elvis was the whistler on early records? No. I think Anne Margaret and Linda loved Elvis the most. They certainly did. Those two certainly did love Elvis, but there was many more as well. I don't think we can just single out Anne and Linda. Elvis Presley was hot, and he had no problem having women around him. That's funny. You should say that, because on the latest podcast, YouTube, about the Lost film, Bill Randall is reading out some letters on air from people, and a lot are saying they love Elvis, but one girl says, I don't know what anybody sees in Elvis Presley because he's not hot at all. So that was a bit of a strange one to hear. He was very fond of Anita. Yes, he probably loved Anita too. He let her get away, though, unfortunately. In the 1968 special, do you prefer the jamming session or the parts where he is singing on his own? Which parts do I like best? I like the more polished parts, the not. I don't like. I'm not that keen on the sit down parts, I must admit. I like the stand up concerts and things like that. So whoever said that needs to get his eyes tested. Yes, that's right. By the way, if anybody is interested in seeing more of the comeback special, I would recommend they get this, the comeback special deluxe edition DVD. If you haven't got it, I know a lot of people have got it, but it's a great three CD. Actually, DVD. I know I said CD. I mean, and it's an awful lot of outtakes and stuff that they didn't use, and alternate versions, and all this and all that. It's nearly everything that was in the can, nearly everything that was shot. So I would highly recommend that if you haven't already got it. I don't know why Stella Stevens didn't like Elvis. There's few and far between the people that didn't like him. There was even people that thought they wouldn't like him until they met him, and then just couldn't believe how lovely and likable he was. So it was a strange one. Strange one. There was also talk that not Marlon Brando. I've got Marlon Brando on the brain at the moment. What was the name of the fella that was in Kid Galahad? The 68 special set is a killer. I love it. Yeah. This one. And another one that's great as well is the Aloha from Hawaii special box set as well. Andy Smith. Yeah. Just echoing what I've just said. Charles Bronson. Couldn't think of his name. He apparently didn't like him either. So that's Stella Stevens and Charles Bronson. And can anybody else throw any more names at me that they have heard, allegedly, they didn't like Elvis? Now, if all the people that he worked with and met and knew, and we can only think of Charles Bronson and Stella Stevens, then that's not bad going. That is not bad going at all. I did hear, it's not so much that she didn't like him, but apparently when Karen Carpenter was backstage with Elvis once, she was very rude to him. She pushed a piece of paper or an album or something in front of him and said, "Here, sign this." And he said, "I'd be delighted to if you ask me properly, or if you ask me nicely." So she could have been nervous. I don't know, but it doesn't sound like Karen, I must admit. I've always thought that Karen Carpenter is like the female Elvis. When you listen to her voice, it's just so perfect. Hi, Joy. How you doing? Joy says her dad didn't like him. Yeah, but I bet your dad didn't work with him. Hi, Sean. Sean, the answer to your question was a lot of people think he was just shouting out encouragement during American Trilogy. Ray Charles didn't like Elvis. There is an interview on YouTube. Okay, so that's three. That's Charles Bronson, Ray Charles, and Stella Stevens. So that's three people. That's not a lot of people. I don't know what percentage that would be of all the people he worked with and all the people he met. Ray Charles liked Elvis, so did BB King. So we're getting sort of two different opinions here. We're getting people saying he did like him and people that didn't like him. So maybe Ray Charles did. I know. Steve, did you hear that David Bowie said on concert, "Bye bye Elvis"? Bowie didn't like Elvis Presley. Well, I actually think that he did like him. In fact, he did a tribute to him once, live in concert. What happened to Joan Blackman? I'm not sure. Is Joan still alive? Maybe somebody can tell me. I'd love to speak to Joan, actually, if I could ever get her on. I have a list of people I'd love to speak to. Steve Allen didn't like him. I don't know whether Steve Allen didn't like him, but I think he was poking fun at Elvis. NYC girl, hi there. He was poking fun at him. I just think he was making fun of him, but whether he liked him or not, I don't know. Angela Lansbury liked Elvis. Yeah, yeah. Who's 82? Amy Winehouse. Who's 82? Is Joan Blackman 82? If she is, then yeah, it would be hard to get a hold of her now. Obviously, technology would be a little bit too much, maybe for an 82-year-old. I don't know. I don't know. Although I was speaking to Barbara Hearn there a couple of weeks ago, and she's in her 80s, and she was a lovely woman. Lovely woman. If anybody wants to hear that, it's on my YouTube channel and podcast. Well, Bill Bixby is one of these that thinks, or he did think, that Elvis was alive. Milton Berle loved Elvis. Yeah, he called him my boy. Somebody says here that they've heard that Joan Blackman is still alive, but she's a bit rude. Okay, I'll search that one out, Sandro. David Bowie hates Elvis Presley. Please hear the concert say "Bye Bye Elvis." Okay. All right, so maybe we can add David Bowie to the list as well. So what are we up to now? Are we up to 4? Well, hello from Serbia. How are you going today? Thanks for joining the chat. Steve Allen was a pompous, conceited man. I don't know, but I don't agree with what he tried to do on that show on July 1st, 1956. And I think Elvis just was relieved when it was all over. And what he said at Russwood Park on July the 4th was, those people up in New York are not going to change me any. You're going to see the real Elvis Presley tonight. So he obviously, that's the way he felt about it. And somebody else now is saying that David Bowie did like Elvis. David Bowie actually loved Elvis, saw him in Madison Square Garden. Yeah, I think that David Bowie actually did like Elvis. Lisa Griffiths, hi. Good evening from Hartlepool. Hello, Hartlepool. Yeah, Lou Costello met Elvis at the Rustwood Park concert in Memphis. There's actually nice photographs actually of Lou Costello and Jane Russell. And there's a nice one where Lou Costello is actually biting Elvis's jacket lapel. Hi, Kevin again. Yeah, Brian Connolly. Yeah, I know Brian Connolly. He was a very very talented singer, and he was kind of, yeah, I suppose he was a comedian as well. Yeah, but Brian Connolly. Yeah, my mum, God rest her soul, she liked Brian Connolly. Okay. So what else have we got to cover? Are there any more Louisiana Hayride recordings that people are holding on to? Could well be, but there is a massive box set of them. I have it here somewhere, and there's a lot of recordings on that. So, but there might be. There's Granny M. Hi, Granny M. Good to see you. Led Zeppelin also saw Elvis at Madison Square Garden. Yeah, and there's a nice story of them meeting on the tarmac at an airport somewhere, and they all sort of face each other off. Elvis's men are fanned out behind him, and Led Zeppelin's um, entourage are behind them, and it looks like there's a face off going on. And then Elvis is admiring their jet, and they're in awe of him. They're saying, "Oh, Elvis, Elvis, Elvis." They were like little children around Elvis, and then he says, "I like your jet," and he says, "Thanks, Elvis," and he says, "I own mine," and turns on his heel and walks away. How come your live chat isn't activated? Well, it's activated my side because I'm reading all the comments, and just anybody else, if they want to just confirm that they can see the comments as well. If you Google David Bowie, Elvis Presley, it would say that Bowie was a dedicated Elvis fan. There you go. I very much like Memphis. Yes, when I went, Elvis financed the Pearl Harbor Memorial. Yes, he did. In fact, he did the concert, the benefit concert. Uh, yeah, they could have exchanged watches as well. Yeah, Robert Plant could have exchanged. Oh, right. Sorry, I meant for your super chat. I'm not. I'm not 100% sure how that super chat works. If somebody can explain how the super chat works, I'm not too sure. If I activate it, what's the difference between this chat and super chat? You push the button. You push the button. Okay. What button? Nancy says she agrees with Lisa being a honeymoon baby. I think Elvis had a conversation with Lamar about it, and he said, "Hey, Lamar, when do you think Lisa was conceived?" And Lamar says, "Are you asking me?" And it's likely that she was conceived at the Circle G, so not Graceland, because they were spending a lot of time at the Circle G after the wedding. Yeah, again, I'm not too sure what super chat is. Somebody's saying is super chat. Can you activate super chat? But I don't know what I have to do or anything like that. Just put your PayPal account online. Right. Okay. I'll look into that. But does that mean that people have to donate then? Because I do this for free. I don't make money out of it. So. I don't know. Annie says she loves Lamar's humor. Yes, I thought Lamar was very funny, and he probably half the time he didn't, and he probably didn't realize he was being funny. Although there was jealousy over Lamar with some of the Memphis Mafia, I believe, because they, well, not so much jealousy. They poked fun at him, I think, but it was good natured fun, his size and so forth, Um, Danny White. I sent the video title, Steve, on the comment. Yeah, I'll check that out later. Yeah, just if somebody can confirm that they can see this chat over here, I'm pretty sure you can. Larry Strickland, yeah. I asked Donny Sumner as well, and Donny Sumner says he was going to talk to me, but then he's gone very quiet. So I don't know whether he changed his mind or whether he's isn't too well, or I don't know. But I was hoping to speak to Donny Sumner. In the end, Lamar betrayed him by helping Albert Goldman write his book Elvis. Well, there's theories that Lamar didn't know what half the stuff he was going to say in the book. I think, yeah, David McCurtain says Goldman tricked him. I think there was an element of that, and the element was that he started writing nicely about Elvis, but as he went on, he got kind of nastier and nastier, and Lamar even picked him up on it. I think he says, Lamar, Albert, you can't say things like that, and he says, well, it's my damn book, and I'll say what I like. So. Right, NYC girl. A normal pregnancy takes 40 weeks. Just count the weeks, and it's entirely possible Priscilla conceived on their wedding night. I have assisted in over 4,000 deliveries as a labor and delivery nurse. Well, there you go. And that's what I think as well. I think Lisa was conceived in the early days of May 1967. Could even be before they went to Circle G. Don't forget they were in Ladera for a few days. The honeymoon house in Palm Springs. When is the Mindy Miller interview coming up? I've got to reconnect with Mindy actually and ask her, but she has agreed to come on. I've got a big one, hopefully a big one coming up next. Very, very, very close to somebody who was very, very close to Elvis. I just got to make sure that I can get the timing right and for the interview, because he's in a different part of the world to me, as most of Elvis's world is. But it is a big one, and if I can just tie it up by the end of this week, I'll let you know all about it. But as I say, it's a very big fish. I think Ringo Starr is mistaken. I think it was Colonel Tom Parker, not Elvis. Steve, Ringo Starr said that Elvis Presley wanted the Beatles banned in the United States. He did say something like that to Richard Nixon when he met him in December 1970. I don't think he just mentioned the Beatles. He said groups of today. So. Right. Okay, Granny M, you can see the comments. That's all right. I thought you could. Yeah. I'll have to look into this super chat to, if people are interested. Fair enough. But I can just run this chat, I think, for now anyway. Tracy. Hi everyone. I was raised on Elvis and Bob Seger. My mum's seen him in concert. I have actual photos from the concert in my safe. Well, we'd like to see those, Tracy. No, it's not off topic. No, definitely not. Unless you mean Bob Seger. I wouldn't be that interested in Bob Seger's photographs. I'd definitely be interested in Elvis photographs. Do you have anything signed by Elvis Presley? Yes, I have a couple of albums. Super Chat will take 30%. PayPal don't pay the fees. Right, okay. Fair enough. I think Elvis used the Beatles as an example of drug use in music. He continued to sing Beatles songs. Well, this is right. I mean, he did consider, I think there was a passing sort of admiration between the two. I mean, the Beatles definitely loved Elvis. They weren't that keen on what he was doing when they met in 1965. They wish he'd just gone back to what he was doing in the 50s. Oh, right. Yeah, Tracy, you can send email of the photos to Elvis the Ultimate Fan Channel at gmail.com. So if you want to send me those, that's great. I'd definitely be interested in seeing them. Um, Jamie Elvis fan Freeman. Anyone plus other entertainers who dislike Elvis is just like my daddy, who would say it's just jealous. Yeah, there could be some jealousy. People saying they don't like him, jealous that everybody else did like him. David, Elvis was getting a million a picture. It's hard to turn down that type of cash. Well, this is it. Yeah, I mean the Beatles probably didn't realize just how well how lucrative those movies were. I always wondered what the Beatles thought about Elvis in 68, 69, 70. Well, they would have been impressed, I think, the way he turned things around. He'd gone from what had become mediocre, low budget movies to the 1968 special, then the triumphant return to Las Vegas in 1969, and then starting tour in 1970. Of course, by then they'd split up in 1970, but after 1966, they became a studio band anyway, so maybe they weren't that enamored with people that toured anymore. Are you getting from Elvis in the Nashville box set? Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I haven't ordered it yet, but I'm going to be getting it. What's the most surprising thing you learned in your interviews? Cat Girl Blue. When I was talking to Barbara Hearn a couple of weeks ago, she said that she didn't think she never what was the word she said? She didn't think that Gladys abused alcohol as much as people say she did. She spent a lot of time with Gladys, and Gladys never struck her as being a big drinker, and she never saw her inebriated, and she never smelt it on her breath. And yet, we've heard so much about how Gladys abused alcohol the last couple of years of her life. So that was quite surprising to hear that from Barbara. And I have no doubt that Barbara was honest when she said that. Um, I can go up there a little bit. I sent the Spar guy a picture of myself on the diving board from the movie Viva Las Vegas. Oh, behind the Flamingo Hotel. Okay. Gladys was addicted to Valium. I didn't know that, David. I thought she was more dependent on amphetamines to try and lose weight. Maybe it was Valium. She definitely needed calming down because she was getting in an awful state the last couple of years with Elvis being away so much, and she worried constantly about him. I feel that when he did the 1968 special, he just put the Beatles back on the shelf. Yeah, he it was some comeback. Michael was lucky enough to see Elvis twice in Vegas and once on New Year's Eve 1975 in Pontiac, Michigan. Yeah, that would have been a brilliant time to see him. Billy Smith hasn't written a book per se about Elvis, but there's the Alana Nash book, The Revelations from the Memphis Mafia, which I would highly recommend. David, sorry, amphetamines too. Yeah, she could have been into amphetamines. Somebody there says they sprinkled some of their father's ashes at the bottom of Elvis's grave. That's nice. That's nice. I saw him at the UD Arena, Dayton, Ohio in 1974. Anybody that saw Elvis live, I'm very jealous of. They're very lucky people that saw Elvis live because, as you might have guessed by me saying that, I never saw Elvis live. Kevin booked a tour with Jerry Lee Lewis, 12 huge shows. Johnny Earl was his support act. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Billy Smith seems to be credible and loving. Well, he was there. He was family. He was there right from the very, very beginning, and he was there right to the very, very end. $5 was a lot back then, you lucky sods, David. Yeah. Well, I think $15 was the going rate for an Elvis concert then in the 1970s. Um, it was a lot of money. I think $15 was a lot of money. However, it wasn't as much as some acts in the 70s. And did Colonel Parker, or was it Elvis, ask Colonel Parker to keep the prices down so it's people could afford, even low paid workers could still afford to come to the concerts? I think it was mutual. I think they both agreed to do that. NYC girl says, I passed up seeing Elvis to see Frank Sinatra. Not smart. Yeah. Well, they were both giants, weren't they? But I think Elvis would have won. In a toss up, I would have gone Elvis. There was a big change. Lincoln 1800 says there was a big change between Elvis in 1968 to 1974. Yeah, I mean, there was, but then again, there was a big change from 1967 to 1968. When you see Elvis in, say, something like Clam Bake, and then you see him in the 1968 special, he's just a completely different person altogether. I don't know whether Aretha Franklin knew Elvis Presley. I don't know whether she ever met him or not. Lee Chat, I don't like the lucky devils who saw Elvis live. Well, I'm just envious of them to think that they actually saw Elvis live. If anybody saw Elvis from the front row, that's me. If anybody on here either got a kiss, a scarf, or a handshake, or anything like that, please say so now on the chat. I can just be completely and utterly envious about it. Annie, I saw the Sweet Inspirations live and almost fainted because they were so close to Elvis. Yeah. Aloha, Jarno Jan. How are you doing? Oh, well, yeah. Sinatra said he was retiring in 1975. So I suppose you thought, well, I'll see Elvis after, and probably never got around to seeing him again. Elvis wanted to be a gospel singer at the beginning of his career. Oh, Tracy, right. You sent me the email, right? I'll check that after the live broadcast. Thanks very much for that. That's very kind. Thank you. So we've covered the Lost Elvis movie 1955. We've discussed the 1968 special, and leaving out It Hurts Me, which I can't believe they did that. But then again, we said earlier on that was probably to fit the commercials in. The Daily Express article today, John Lennon saying that the meeting in 1965 was crap, whether you believe that or not. We've also said that Elvis was probably shouting out just encouragement to the band during American Trilogy. And we've also covered the book Letters from Elvis by Gary Lindbergh, which sounds like a complete and utter crazy book. It really does, from what people have said on here. I did get a scarf at the New Year's concert and gave it to my cousin. She still has it, Michael. That's very nice of you to give it away to somebody. Robert Reed. I had chills seeing the TCB band in Glasgow in 2019. That's with Elvis up on the big screen behind them. So I'd imagine that is just something else to see. Ryan went to see them in Brum in Birmingham, probably in the arena at the NEC. I would imagine that's where you saw them. What was Elvis's favorite drink? Oh, well, it wasn't beer and it wasn't whiskey. It was probably Mountain Valley spring water. Elvis's brother died the 10th of the 4th, 2020. Is it true? No, it's not. Elvis's brother was stillborn on January the 8th, 1935. Jesse Garin. He was buried in Priceville Cemetery in Memphis, but unfortunately, nobody knows the location of where he was buried. When Elvis became famous, his father tried to locate it, and they just couldn't remember, which is kind of funny. I don't mean funny as in funny, ha ha. I mean kind of strange. I don't believe Lennon said anything bad about Elvis. Lennon said before Elvis there was nothing. Exactly. Jacqueline, hi from Newcastle on Tyne. Yeah. It's what was strange at the show that I saw was the men walking around looking like him. The girl sitting next to me soiled herself. Oh dear. I brought. I thought the Talking album fan. I bought the Talking album Fun with Elvis at the show. Yeah, having fun with Elvis on stage is right. Yeah, John Lennon said that about other artists. He probably did. Yeah. Larry Geller writes in his book that Elvis and Lennon had phone conversations in the 70s. I heard that. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. I was hoping to talk to Larry, but he hasn't come through. I think he changed his mind, unfortunately. Lennon said that Elvis died when he went into the army. Well, I don't agree with that. I know he said that, but I don't agree with that because that means then that everything from 1958 to 1977 was pointless, and we know that it wasn't. There was highs and lows throughout the 60s and 70s, but he didn't. He definitely didn't die when he went in the army. How many times have I been to Graceland? Once and once only, and once is never enough. So I'll have to go back. I live walking distance from the Dakota where John was murdered. Well, yeah. I heard that Mark Chapman has been turned down for again release again, which kind of makes me happy because as far as I'm concerned, somebody like that should just not be allowed out. Did you read that Lisa Marie Presley's fears that Me Too movement Elvis could face an unprecedented backlash because of the new biopic of by Baz Luhrmann? I hadn't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me. The Having Fun album was put out by Parker as he had the rights to Elvis's speaking voice. It was also put out because Elvis hadn't gone into the recording studio at all during 1974, and they had to release something to fulfill obligations. They also recorded his his concert in the Mid South Coliseum in March 1974 and released that as well to try and at least appease RCA a little bit. But I think that originally the Having Fun with Elvis on stage was released by Boxcar, I believe. Boxcar label was Having Fun. That's right, Jake. Yeah, you're right. Elvis used to talk baby talk with his mother. Yes, that's correct. He did. Yeah, and he also used to talk baby talk with Linda and other girlfriends as well. Baby bunting, satinin, those sort of things. He called Gladys Lil Baby and Satinin. Yeah, Satinin. Yeah, yeah. And I think he called Linda Baby Bunting. No, Robert, I don't know any info on the Red West book as yet. I think it's pending, isn't it? The only time I was at Graceland, he lived there. Wow, Christmas time, it was always decorated in blue lights. Still is, yeah. I mean, the lighting ceremony every December is very good to see it all lit up. Kathy Westmoreland seems willing to do interviews and seems very lovely. I've got to try and contact her again. I did contact her, but I didn't have any reply, so I probably went to the wrong area, or I went down the wrong avenue to contact her. Jake says, I have not seen Kathy since 2006. That's a long time ago. He called Linda Ariadne. Is that the Ariadne from Follow That Dream? Somebody here saw him live in 1976 at Charleston. She's so glad she did. That's Margaret. Hi, Margaret. I think I tried to contact Kathy through her webpage. She has a website. There was a link on Facebook, and I tried that. I think it was her fan page, but nothing's come of it. Jacqueline C says, yes, Follow That Dream. Yeah. Wow, listen to this, Jake. My great grandma was at the Aloha special. Whoa, what I wouldn't have done to have been there. How long ago was Kathy on the Howard Stern radio show, NYC Girl? Just think, if Elvis had had a son, what pressure would have been on him? A lot of people are saying there was a lot of pressure on Benjamin because everybody kept saying that he was so much like Elvis. And there's even rumors, I don't know how true it is, but people are saying that he had trouble living with the pressure of being Elvis's grandson. She sat middle row with my great aunt and great grandpa. And have you ever seen her on the shots of the crowd? It would be interesting, wouldn't it, to be able to pick out your grandmother? NYC Girl thinks that Kathy was on Howard Stern in the late 80s. So that's quite a while ago. I'd love to speak to Kathy. I'd love to speak to Kathy. Elvis thought very highly of Kathy. We know that. Is there any other questions that anybody would like to ask, or any topics you'd like to introduce to the chat? Becky D, I saw Elvis in concert 6 times, and I didn't even see him once. When anybody said anything bad about Elvis, just think walk a mile in his shoes. Exactly. Nobody knew what it was like to be Elvis Presley. The only person that knew what it was like to be Elvis Presley was Elvis Presley. Even his father probably couldn't completely understand what it must have been like to be Elvis. Keep up the calls for Jerry Schilling. I'm not even convinced that I've got the right email for Jerry. I would love if anybody else knows a contact or a phone number or an email address or anything. They can send me the details on Elvis the Ultimate Fan channel at gmail.com. If anybody has got a good way of getting through to Jerry. I didn't know that Elvis was going to appear in Greece. I must admit that. But I mean, I hope you don't mean Grease the film, because Grease the film was 1978, so Elvis was gone by then. So I'm not too sure, unless you mean Grease the show, the stage show. No, I never spoke to George Klein. Unfortunately, George passed away before I could get to him. Thanks, Michael. Says, to all Elvis fans, have a great night. Same to you. Thanks. The lower belt, I'm not too sure what happened to the belt. I know what happened to the cape. The fella that caught it, when he died, his family gave it back to Graceland. Or, well, I don't know whether they gave it back or they might have sold it back to Graceland. It was filmed in 1977, released in 78. Yes, correct. Yes, it probably was. If it was released in 78, the filming took place probably in 1977. But by then, Elvis was busy doing touring and everything anyway, so unlikely. I don't think Elvis was going to go into Greece. Ryan, have you tried Priscilla? No, I haven't tried Priscilla, simply because I know I haven't hoping heck of getting an interview with Priscilla. I wonder what part Elvis could have played in Star Wars. What do you think? What part should Luke Skywalker maybe? Somebody says they heard an employee, the cape was on loan to Graceland. Could well be. I heard it was sold back to them, but could well be. Okay, Elvis Austin says he could have played Han Solo. And somebody else, Jamie, says Luke Skywalker for sure. Or if he wanted to remain low key, he could have been Chewbacca. He could have worn the fur and everything. Yeah, that's right, Rick. He did wear a gun in one of his boots, a little Derringer in one of his boots. In fact, what he did, it was irritating his ankle in one concert, and so he just fished it out and plunked it on the top of the piano right in front of everybody. Greg, hiya, Greg. Graceland brought the cape back. Yeah, I think they did buy it back. Yeah. I don't think Colonel Tom would have let Elvis be in Greece. Probably not. Do you know Elvis probably would have been good in James Bond? I think he would have. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Pablo, I think I might have started a rumor there now about Elvis being Chewbacca in Star Wars. There's going to be people now saying that. I'm not sure which concert it was that he fished the gun out, but you can imagine. And he just didn't care. I mean, he just, yep, there's the gun. Hang on. It's irritating me. Bang on top of the piano. He probably would have thought it was funny. Now, somebody here mentions Elvis would have been good in True Grit with John Wayne. There's a big rumor that he should have played the part that Glenn Campbell played. But again, Colonel Tom said no. Edge of Reality always strikes me as something sort of James Bondy themey sort of thing. And Elvis looked particularly great in the late 60s, so he could have easily played James Bond and got away with it, no problem whatsoever. Who's the biggest Elvis Presley fan in here? Just curious. We're all big Elvis fans, definitely. We're all big Elvis fans. Rick says that Parker got 50% of everything. I think there was a new deal signed sometime around 1967, just before Clambake was filmed. And I think it was then 50-50 after that. He didn't get 50% of everything prior to that. Elvis tripped in his bathroom. He tripped over a TV cable, cracked his head, and had concussion. And they had to postpone the start of Clambake, and at the time Parker was seething to think that they were going to lose money if Elvis didn't get well. And he also took Elvis's vulnerability at the time to renegotiate the 50-50. Greg says, considering all the work you do for us, Steve, I think you're the biggest Elvis fan. I would imagine I'm nowhere near the biggest Elvis fan, but I know what you mean. Steve, have you seen the Mary Loves of Elvis documentary? No, I haven't. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Hang on, I misread that. I'll start again. The Many Loves of Elvis. I don't know where I got Mary from. Sorry, Mary, if you're watching. No, I haven't. No. What did he see in Parker? Well, Parker got him started, and he did get him start very, very well. I've said many times he was doing well. He kept him in the spotlight when Elvis was in the army. But however, after about 1961, 62, I think Elvis would have benefited from getting rid of Parker. Rick says Parker lost a lot of dollars in Vegas. Yes, he did. He was quite deep into into them the casinos for money. What might the future of Elvis be? Will his popularity last? Yes, I think it'll go on and on and on. I think it'll definitely outsee me anyway. Parker was in an army mental hospital. Yes, he had some sort of breakdown or psychotic episode, and he was discharged on the basis of that. Jamie says that he thinks that Parker exploited Elvis. A lot of people think that. And Jake also says that Parker lost $1 million in one night while Elvis was asleep upstairs. He could well have done. He could well have done. It's funny. There's a funny story. When they started playing Vegas, Parker was supposed to have warned the boys not to get into gambling and get hooked on it because, and then he goes and gets hooked on it. Strange. Unless Parker was hooked on it well before and he was trying to warn them. Do you remember what celebrity told Elvis, "Don't hide from your celebrity"? No, I know that story, but I can't remember off the top of my head who it was. Somebody else might be able to give me the name. George Klein said Elvis would live on as long as there were people who care. Well, that's true. That's true, and he's getting new fans every year. I mean, I know for a fact that there's new fans coming through the whole time. It could have been Sam Phillips that said, "Don't hide from your celebrity," Ryan. It could have been. But then Catry Blue says, Cat Girl Blue says it was Jackie Gleason. Banjo Paul, no, he wasn't a colonel, is right. It was an honorary title. I didn't hear the story about Elvis praying for Sylvia Shemwell because she had stomach cancer and the next day the cancer was gone. No, I didn't hear that story. It sounds unlikely though. It does sound unlikely. That's a very, very good point. Lee Chat says, "Why didn't he produce more than one Elvis then?" I mean, yeah, he often tried to take credit for making Elvis, but then again, let's face it. I agree with what you're saying, Lee Chat. If he made Elvis, then why didn't he make another one? And he never did. He knew there'd be no encore. Um, he knew there was only one Elvis. Sandro, Steve, have you seen my comment? I would like your opinion, please. No, I missed it, Sandro. If you want to type it again and I'll see what it says. Elvis was unique, definitely. 1989, Kathy was on the Howard Stern show. I wonder, is it on YouTube? I might look that up. Okay, Mary Lou Ferrer said that Elvis Presley asked her if he can take his daughter, age 14, to live in Graceland. This was in the 60s. You can see this interview on the documentary The Many Loves of Elvis. I seem to remember vaguely hearing something about that. I have to say, I take a lot of those things with a pinch of salt. I really do. Um, 64 years ago yesterday, Elvis did his homecoming Tupelo concert. That's right. Yeah, completely went by me, but you're right. It was 26th, wasn't it? I think. Yeah, 26th of September. Vincent Spencer. Elvis came to the UK. He came on a stop off at Prestwick Airport. Is right. Yeah, yeah, on his way home from the army. Kathy Westmoreland is on Facebook, but don't think she's in great health. She was posting about writing a book a while back. Yeah, no, I heard that she wasn't in great health, unfortunately. And if somebody's not in good health, I don't really like to ask them. But I might just put a few feelers out. Prestwick Airport in 1960. Yeah, that's right. And he had to ask somebody where we were. He had to ask somebody, where are we, as they were touching down. Because I don't think that Elvis was even told they were stopping for refueling. My favorite Elvis movie. I don't actually have one. I have a couple. Um, King Creole, Viva Las Vegas, Jailhouse Rock. I like as well. After Viva Las Vegas, I'm quite partial to Charo and Change of Habit, and also I know this people might say, "Well, what?" But Double Trouble. Double Trouble wasn't too bad. And I'll tell you the reason why. I thought there was a few comedic sequences in Double Trouble, which was quite good. I'm not too sure what that comment means, but it's a bit offensive anyway. I'll just gloss over that. That's the way it is. Yeah, it's more of a documentary, though, isn't it? That's the way it is. Okay, Rick, Double Trouble was terrible and is my least favorite. Probably his least favorite as well. What do you think Elvis's weakest movie was? Hear 'em, Scare 'em. Elvis Austin says Double Trouble and Tickle Me were funny. Yeah, they were. They did have some funny sequences. That's what I'm saying. I know Rick is saying Double Trouble was poor, but okay. You need mud, Steve. Yeah, I probably do. Yeah. Uh, I'm not sure if I can block that. Although it does say message retracted, so maybe he realized that he had offended me. Elvis could have been a good comedic actor. Yeah. Clam Bake was very weak. Yeah. And Becky D is agreeing with me, saying Hear 'em, Scare 'em was the worst. The Colonel wanted a talking camel in it, if anybody's heard me say that before. He did have good comedic timing. Yeah. Lee Chat says, do you know about the DNA research which showed that Elvis had been bound to die young? I had seen something about that. And I do actually hold quite that in high esteem, that opinion in high esteem, that he did have genetic problems, health problems that he was doomed to have, regardless of whether he was uh, famous or not, or whether his his mother had the same sort of problems as well, with the colon and the bloating and all this. If you look at Gladys in 1958 and then you look at Elvis in 1977, you can see the same similarities and conditions. So I think, yeah, that DNA was probably true. He did have conditions from birth which would have done for him early anyway. Obviously, his diet, his way of life, his lifestyle, the medications he was taking, the prescription medications he was taking didn't help. But I don't think Elvis Presley would have lived to be an old man anyway. Sandro, Steve, you said you don't believe that Elvis done that. I don't. No, I don't. Again, Sandro, you're bringing Michael Jackson into it as well, but I don't really have any opinions on Michael Jackson. Um, Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson are both dead. It's very easy to speak ill of the dead, especially when they're not around to, defend themselves. I love the 1969 box set. He was, he was definitely at a on the crest of a wave in 1969, 1968, 1969, 1970. In 1968, you've obviously got the NBC television special. Then in the early part of 1969, you've got the American Sound Studios recordings. Then you've got the return to Las Vegas. I mean, he really was, a really, really high peak at that time. Rubbernecking is a very strong song. It's from obviously the 1969 sessions. Do you hear that Elvis was asked to play Dirty Harry? He probably was, yeah. When Elvis turned 40, Johnny Carson said he's 40 and fat. Elvis never watched him again. Yeah, I think he held Johnny in high esteem until he said something about Elvis being fat and 40. But I don't, did Johnny Carson say Elvis is fat and 40, or was he just reading from a magazine or paper article, a newspaper article? That's what I never quite figured that out. Maybe somebody can tell me. I don't think Johnny would say, I don't think he'd say, "Oh, Elvis is fat and 40." Yeah, I think he was probably reading from an article. Becky D, I can't unfortunately choose one song. There's so many favorites of mine that I can't. Why is Billy never consulted about anything? I don't know. I don't know why Billy isn't consulted about anything. I know that he was kind of um, cut loose from the family after Elvis died. He did for a short period. He was a tour guide in Graceland, but I don't know. I wonder too, Greg, did Elvis shoot the television after Carson said about him being 40 and fat? I would have done. It was a low blow, whoever said it anyway, whether it was the media that said it, whether it was Johnny Carson, it was a low blow. Right, Helen, why would Priscilla talk about Elvis on the Oprah show as if he was alive? She says that's exactly what he said the other day. I actually think that was a slip of the tongue. I really do. I just think it was just a slip of the tongue. Do you ever listen to Rocking Ron on Sunday mornings? No. He's on Network Jams now on internet. No, but I might listen to that. Banjo Paul. No, I haven't heard Amanda Ellis talking to Elvis beyond the grave. I remember watching something on Sky once called Dead Famous, and they were supposed to be contacting Elvis when they were stood outside the music gates. So I'm very kind of tongue in cheek about things like that. Sandro, okay, my thoughts on Jerry Lee Lewis marrying his first cousin, age 13. I know that it nearly completely finished him as an artist. In fact, he probably never got over the scandal when he married his first cousin. He never recovered from it fully artistically. Jeffrey, tomorrow never comes. Reconsider Baby and Never Walk Alone. The three are the best. Yeah, and out of those three, I would definitely say Reconsider Baby is just phenomenal. This is a 1960 cut for Elvis's back, and special mention to Boots Randolph and that blistering sax solo. Okay, Banjo Paul says you should check it. I'm sitting on the fence, but she does seem a very genuine woman. Please check it out and perhaps share next time if you can. Amanda Ellis, where do I find it, Banjo? What is she on? Tomorrow Never Comes is much overlooked. Yeah, I never hear many people talking about it. It appeared on the Elvis country album, and I like it. I like the way it builds and builds and builds, and then Elvis hits that high note at the very, very end. So, Vicky, I would agree with you. Tomorrow Never Comes is great. What is my favorite 70s album? I like um, I like the Madison Square Garden album. Although I will say one thing: if anybody's got the actual original LP, you'll notice that it runs way too fast. The master tape is running way too fast. If you compare it with the afternoon in the garden, which is the matinee performance, not the evening performance, um, you'll hear the difference. That's I've got a lot of favorite 70s albums. That's the Way It Is another good one, I think. And I'm particularly partial to the Memphis Elvis live in the Memphis Mid South Coliseum. Was Reconsider Baby recorded before the Sinatra show? I think it was. I think it was, or was it from the second session, April the 3rd? Right, banjo. Yeah, type Amanda Ellis Elvis. Right, I'll check that out later on. Lisa Marie, no, she's got a lot on her plate at the moment with her divorce proceedings and things like that, hasn't she? Jerry Lee Lewis went to Graceland drunk. Yeah, I think he was inebriated. Earth Boy is a great song. Yeah, again, it's another one that it's buried on the soundtrack of Girls, 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 but it's not too bad. Yeah, I have read the Child Bride book. Yeah, didn't think much about it, but I read it. There's a lot of golden nuggets which you won't hear played much. I mean, will you ever hear on mainstream radio something like "Long Black Limousine"? You probably won't. Okay, Annie. Good night to you. Why did he buy a house at Monavale when he had a house 3 miles away in Hillcrest? Hmm, good question. I'm Leaving is superb. Yes, that's another good one. Steve, Girls, Girls, Girls is an awful title for a film. Harem Scarum is a bad title as well. Clam Bake is another bad title. Some of the titles weren't great. See, Long Black Limousine is great, but you won't hear it outside of the fan base. What is the name of the Elvis Memphis Mafia book? John, if you mean Revelations from the Memphis Mafia by Alan and Nash, a lot of people rate that. It's almost like a reference book. You can pick any time of Elvis's career and look it up. And the boys, Marty, Lamar, and Billy will have something to say about it. Yeah, I need somebody to lean on from Viva Las Vegas. Is a nice sultry sort of ballad. Milky White Way, another excellent one. King 7703. You and I agree on a lot of songs. I like the outtakes of Milky White Way as well. Sandcastles, another hidden gem. Steve, you're right. Yeah, it was the only one as well that wasn't that it didn't appear in the album. I don't mean it didn't appear in the album. I'll back up. It didn't appear in the film. I think it was also the only one that was sung live as well. The other ones, the band recorded their backing tracks the first week, and then the second week Elvis went in and overdubbed his vocal on things like Dating and A Dog's Life and so forth. But I think, if I remember rightly, Sandcastles were actually done live in the studio. Judy is another good hidden gem. How Do You Think I Feel? I covered How Do You Think I Feel in one of these Sun Studios podcasts I did a couple of months back. Rockin' Ron plays all the hidden gems and gives incredible trivia too. In that case, then, Suzanne, I would like to listen to Rockin' Ron because I love all the trivia and things like that. And I love to hear the stuff that you wouldn't normally hear on radio. Robert, what do I think of the song Petunia the Gardener's Daughter? Well, let me tell you something. I think I'll just pass on that. When I'm Over You, another good one. Yep, I agree. Echoes of Love is nice. Yeah. Never Ending, Gently. Yeah, that's a good question, Rick. Why did his voice change so dramatically between 1967 and 1970? I often think that. I often think if you listen to, say, the Clambake soundtrack, and then you listen to the roughness of his voice in the 1968 comeback special, and the roughness, the harshness of his voice on, say, Long Black Limousine, just completely different vocal altogether. Tommy S., where were you when you heard that Elvis had died? I was watching the 10 o'clock news in England, and they said something about Elvis having difficulty breathing and being taken to Memphis Baptist Memorial Hospital. And they didn't, at the time, they didn't say he had died. They just said he had trouble breathing. Mary, Mary, Any Day Now, a beautiful song. It's brilliant, especially the falsetto part in the middle, the high falsetto part. Walls of Ears, if you think I don't need you, Overlooked. Yeah, yeah, I'd agree. Yeah. Okay. Somebody says that the reason why his voice might have been different in the 68 and 69 and 70 was smoking cigars. Well, I think he smoked before that. I think he smoked cigars before that. Could be. Steve, did you know that Steve Binder made that awful Star Wars holiday special? No, I didn't know that. No. Yeah, more power required in the song styles were the reason Elvis's voice was different. He sounded hoarse in 1968, like he was abusing his voice, like on Tiger Man. Well, he could kind of change his voice because he does a version of Blue Christmas, and his voice doesn't sound hoarse or anything like that. So I think he was just, as you say, forcing his voice and making himself sound hoarse. Yeah, well, Suzanne says she loves early Elvis. Yeah, I mean some of those early recordings just brilliant. Yeah, his voice was a lot higher back then. He said it himself. Yeah, he said that when he was going to do "Trying to Get to You" in Elvis in concert in Rapid City. He said, "You got to have the belt in the right place." He was making a joke. Okay, Steve, who is a better singer than Elvis Presley? Personally, I don't think there's anybody better than Elvis Presley. Well, I don't know whether Greg, you were saying the painkillers will dry up his throat, but was he taking painkillers in 1968? Banjo Paul, okay, 9 to you. Thanks for dropping in, Banjo. Would Charo be a better cult movie today? Well, Charo isn't too bad. Charo is. I know he didn't sing. Elvis could sing just about anything. Yeah, I agree. He lost his vibrato after 1971. Yeah, but it came back because I can think of songs after 1971 where he did it again. Elvis sang over 1,000 songs. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he knew a lot of old songs as well. Better than David Bowie. Yeah, better than David Bowie. Yeah. Mary in the Morning was okay. It's not one of my favorites. Will there be a hologram Elvis tour like Roy Orbison? There was supposed to be, and it was cancelled. I don't know why it was pulled. Yeah, Elvis was the most versatile voice ever. Yeah, he could just about sing anything, couldn't he? He could sing all kinds. He even said that. when Marion Keisker asked who he sounded like. He said, "I don't sound like nobody." Tracy, I'm glad you've mentioned Kentucky Rain. I was waiting to see if anybody was going to mention Kentucky Rain. Again, it's one that's just overlooked. It really is overlooked. So thank you for mentioning that. It's Midnight is another good one. Carrie Faulkner. Hello there. You're late to the party. By the way, if anybody is late to the party and they want to see this, it'll be on playback afterwards on YouTube. No, I haven't had a chance to see the Blu-ray version of the 1968 special. I tell you what I did see, though, was I went to see it when it was replayed in the cinema a couple of years ago. Absolutely brilliant to see it on the big screen. First time I'd seen it on the big screen. Only ever seen it on television before. Gaining and losing weight is a great issue for a singer's voice. Yeah, well, his weight was fluctuating during the 60s, and he did lose a lot of weight for the 1968 special. He lost a lot of weight as well for the Aloha special. He went on a special diet, little packets that they boil in water. Him and Sonny went on it. Pieces of My Life. Yeah, I agree. Pieces of My Life is great. I think Mark, I think I answered that earlier. Somebody else asked, "Do you think they'll eventually officially release Elvis in concert?" I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Aloha from Hawaii is on Sky Arts at 10 o'clock. What time is it now? 9:30. Yeah, I've got it on record. Actually, I've set up my device to record it. I don't know whether he knew Elizabeth Taylor. I don't know, as far as I'm aware, whether he ever met her or not. He might have bumped into her. He met Sophie Loren when he was making King Creole. There's some nice photographs of her sitting on his knee and stroking his hair. I think it took place in the canteen, the film lot canteen. Good evening, Anita. How are you today? I'll hold you in my heart. There's only one take of I'll hold you in my heart, Troy, isn't there? He was just kind of doing a bit of a jam while they were trying to do another song. You don't know who that actress is. Do you mean Elizabeth Taylor or do you mean Sophie Loren? Yeah, Frank, Elvis in concert is on YouTube. You can see it on YouTube. David, I think he did briefly meet Marilyn Monroe. In fact, Joe said they met briefly. Yeah, Sophie Loren. Yeah, she's an actress. John, I will definitely agree that the energy of "That's the Way It Is" was missing from the Aloha show. Yes, he wasn't. He didn't move as fast and he didn't move around as much in Aloha as he did on "That's the Way It Is." Can you imagine Elvis in the canteen and asking for bacon butty and a cup of tea? Yeah. Can you imagine Can you imagine working in the canteen and him walking up to the counter? Yeah, I often think about that. Fernando says that Elvis's "My Way" was better than Frank's. Probably was. Yeah. I don't think Elvis and Marlon Brando hung out. They might have met briefly, but I don't think they hung out. The a cappella version of "Summer Kisses, Winter Tears." Well, I like "Summer Kisses, Winter Tears" anyway. Not just the a cappella. I think it's a lovely song. I really do. Troy, the energy levels seem to drop after about 1972. Yes, they did. Yeah, I mean, he was starting to get older, so maybe that's the reason. Bill Ballou said he was preparing a laser jumpsuit for Elvis to play Wembley Stadium in 1978. Possibly. I don't know whether he was doing it for Wembley, but there was a strong, strong possibility that he was preparing a laser jumpsuit. I have heard that when Elvis uh, had a form to fill in about the Lisa Marie jet, he put in there that he was requesting insurance for it to be used abroad outside of the US. Now, whether that was just a standard thing anyway, or whether that was a new thing, you know, maybe he was going to sort himself out, and he was going to do a world tour. We'll never know now, unfortunately. Um, yeah, he had passed the medical for insurance. Yeah, I wonder what Elvis's first night at Graceland was like. Yeah, I'm sure he was excited. It was June 1957 before he spent his first night in Graceland. He was away. He was busy in Hollywood making Jailhouse Rock. Joyce Bover said that in 1972 the level of drugs was already scary. Don't know whether 1972 was. I think by 1974 the dependence had reached a very, very scary level. But 1972 could possibly be. I mean, Joyce probably would know because Joyce was there. John, I don't know. He's asking what my favorite Elvis song is, but the thing is I've got so many that it's hard to pick just one. It is hard to pick just one. I could tell you one that I'm not that keen on. I mean, people are going to say Old MacDonald had a farm in Double Trouble, but something like that. But an actual, what some people say is a really good song. I don't really rate Wooden Heart, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I can take it or leave it. Wooden Heart, I can just take or leave. I don't really watch any of the tribute acts. No, no. That duet with Helen Fisher, "Just Pretend," is not too bad. Although, you know, "Just Pretend" is a great song with just Elvis. Oh, Sophia Loren. Yeah, I know the actress. You said it wrong in your British accent. Yeah, I probably didn't pronounce it right. Mm, Three Corn Patches, Becky. Yeah. Again, it was one of the weaker songs from Stax. Wooden Heart only gets played in the UK because it was a hit. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, Wooden Heart's okay, but I can take it or leave it. Yeah, Elvis would have been spot on as the most interesting man in the world in that beer commercial. Which commercial is that, Greg? Joe Esposito said he was scouting show places for England after 1977. Well, yeah, I mean, Larry Geller says that in March 1977, when they were in Hawaii, he said that he wanted to make a lot of drastic changes in his life, and he was going to try and just uh, you know get a direction in his life. He felt that he was going in the wrong direction in March 1977. We'll never know now whether it was going to happen or not. We don't really know why Elvis didn't do any overseas concerts. We don't know for sure why he didn't do any overseas. We do think that Colonel Parker vetoed it and didn't allow it because, as we know now, he was an illegal immigrant, and he didn't have a passport, which meant he couldn't leave the U.S. Well, he could leave the U.S., but he wouldn't be able to come back. Yeah, Jamie, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I thought it was because Parker couldn't leave the U.S. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Um, yeah, we'll never. What's gone is gone now. Unfortunately, if he'd have come to England, it would have just been superb. Yeah, the Universal Talent Bookings says that Parker was wanted for murder in another country. Mm. Yeah, that's good. That's a good question, Rick. He says if he served in the army, he would have had a passport. Well, not necessarily because he only went to Hawaii. He didn't leave the states when he was in the army. When Parker was in the army, so yeah. Andy Smith says Aloha from Hawaii live in Honolulu, full concert. The ultimate experience is available to watch on YouTube. I've watched that, and it's quite impressive. Yeah. Tax rates in the UK were higher, maybe, but I don't think that would have stopped him. Mark is saying that Charo is an underrated Western movie. Okay, Sean, all the best. Good night to you. Parker did the Aloha show to satisfy the Japanese market. Yeah, well, he satisfied more than the Japanese market, but Japanese, yeah, it was aimed at the Japan market. As a registered soldier, he would have had the passport and also social security number as a businessman. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know for a fact that Parker did not have a passport. Yeah, because if he had applied for a passport, it probably would have come out that he was an illegal immigrant. I don't understand why Colonel Tom Parker said that Wembley was too little for Elvis because the capacity for Wembley in the 60s and 70s was easily 95, even maybe 100,000. Elvis was offered 10 million to do a concert in front of the pyramids. Yeah, Parker refused it. Is correct. Screaming Lord Sutch, who was a celebrity come pop star come whatever he was, offered £1 million for one concert in England. And when he asked Elvis, could they do it? Elvis said that you may ask the colonel, and the colonel said send the deposit. So. Yeah. Parker was making money off Elvis until 1987. Well, there's still people making money off him now. Suzanne says her all-time favorite song, "Today, Tomorrow, and Forever" with Anne Margaret. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one with Anne. Yeah, the one that includes Anne's vocal is a good one. Right, what time have we got? Have we got? We've got 9:45, and Aloha from Hawaii is on in quarter of an hour. If anybody wants to see it, that's obviously in England and Ireland. I don't know whether you'll be able to see it in America. Did you ever read Portrait of a Friend by Marty Lacker? Yes, I did. Um, it's in fact I've got the original hardback, the big A4 size one, signed by Marty and his wife. It's on. I think it's on Sky Arts. I think. Aloha from Hawaii. King is asking. Priscilla is still making money out of Elvis. Well, most of the immediate family that are still alive are making money from the estate. That's the way it works. Right. Well, yeah. Good night, Mark. Thanks for joining. Elvis was loyal to Parker. Yeah. Well, I suppose he was. Yeah. Yeah. The 68 special was on Sky Arts on Friday. Yes, David. Yeah, I was watching it. Yeah. They cut out the It Hurts Me section, which seems a bit odd. And Donna says that she's recording it. Well done, Donna. Oh, listen to this. Stephen says, when he lived in New York, I had the opportunity to see and meet the Jordanaires in person. That must have been some thrill. The chat says they think Elvis wanted to stay away from Europe. His memories of Germany were filled with sorrow over his mother's death. Mm. You can watch it free on YouTube. Yeah, I know. I know. Okay, it's a good point. Yeah. Elvis was also loyal to his staff. That's why he had to do the concerts. Did Johnny Rivers take Elvis' song Memphis, Tennessee? I think he did. Yeah, yeah. Why didn't Elvis fire Parker in 73 when he meant it? I think he couldn't afford the bill that Parker had given him to say that if you want to leave me, you have to pay such and such. So Saudi Arabia offered 10 million. Yeah, they did, and they turned it down. David says, "What do you think of the 77 CBS special? It's not great 6 weeks before he died." No, and prior to that, there's a couple of great concerts just before Omaha and Rapid City, and there's some really good concerts after. It's just unfortunate that those were the two. The Rapid City on the 21st and Omaha on the 19th were two of not the best concerts in that June tour, and those are the two they filmed. So. Scott is wondering what Tom Hanks will be like. Yeah, we were discussing that last week. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to give the film a chance. There's a lot of people think that it'll be no good. Becky D says, "How about Donny Sumner?" Yeah, I asked Donny Sumner, and he said yes, but since he's gone quiet on me, so I don't know whether he's changed his mind or whether he's not very well or something. I don't know, but he immediately said yes when I approached him, and now he just won't reply. So, and I was looking forward to speaking to Donny. When is the film coming to theaters? Well, it's due for release in November 2021, so we've got a while to wait yet. I was going to say something else, and it's gone out of my head now. Okay. Terry Blackwood, yeah, Terry Blackwood's another one. I was going to say yes. I've got hopefully I've got it lined up. If it comes through, I've got a big fish to interview this coming weekend. That's this weekend coming, and it's somebody who was very close to somebody who was very close to Elvis. I can't say too much at the moment in case it all falls through, but if it does happen, I'll let you know. And it is a really big interview coming up this weekend. That's the following weekend from this weekend. That's what I mean. Did Johnny Rivers take Elvis's song Memphis? You mean Memphis, Tennessee? I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. Okay, guys, it's been nice chatting to you. Hopefully, I can do this. I'm not sure about next Sunday because I think the big fish I was just talking about, the interview will be next Sunday. So I will be tied up interviewing that person. So I might have to give next Sunday's live stream broadcast a miss and do it the following Sunday. So it might be 2 weeks before I talk to you again. So thanks very much. I've appreciated all your comments. Please keep safe, keep in touch with me. And as I said, if I don't see you next Sunday, it'll probably be the following Sunday.